Hey there, TC Mabe here with TC Gaming. Wanted to bring you some more ACF related content for the 2.0 release. What we wanted to look at last time, in the other video, I showed you how to get your skeletal mesh onto the default for ACF's skeleton, and that was just a quick process to get that set up. So what I want to do now is I want to walk a little bit through what's actually going on inside this project with the player, as far as the settings and everything go, and what makes this thing tick a little bit. So if we go into the default pawn class for ACF full player blueprint, we can go ahead and open this up. This is where we changed our mesh last time. And in here, you'll see quite a few things if you zoom out in these event graphs and construction scripts and everything. But also over here on the left-hand side, we have all the different components. And what you'll notice is a lot of these have the word inherited next to them. Now, the reason they're inherited is because ACF uses something that is called inheritance or hierarchical parenting. You'll have parent classes and subclasses. And what is happening here is that ACF full player is a child of a parent class called ACF light player BP. So what has happened is instead of rewriting every aspect of the character every time you build a brand new character, adding the control states and all the different attack actions and riding and deceleration and all that kind of stuff, you can put these on the characters wherever you see fit and then inherit from them downstream. So a nice trick to find how this thing is all wired up is to go over here to this parent class, and there's a little magnifying glass and a wrench here, and if you hit the wrench, it'll actually open the parent in the editor. So you can see here when we went from ACF full player BP and hit the wrench, it takes us up to ACF light player BP. And as you go up here, you'll notice some of these things are not in ACF light player. And basically the things that aren't going to be there are the ones that have the that don't have the inherited word next to them. So ACF Rider, Executor, Anim Slave, Snapper, and Ability System are all introduced in this full player BP. And if I made a duplicate of this, or actually if I subclassed this and made a child of it, these things would all be on that child. So if we go up to Light Player BP, we can see that in here, this has some of our other actions in it. So this is where the character picks up some of the stuff for shooting a weapon with the rifle and things like that. Reloading is on the R key in here, and this sets up that shooting component. So to build the full player, basically all you would have to do is take all the different players' blueprints and inherit one from the other. So if you go up a little bit further on this one, the parent of this is ACF player character, which is a little bit more generic in here. And again, this has a lot of other control states in it as well. And so the reason I'm showing you this is because if you're trying to figure out where a particular behavior is coming from, or why is it that when I push the left mouse button something happens, like over in here, input action attack, for example, comes over here and equips the melee weapon in this blueprint. But downstream, if there's an input action attack on a child, it would override this. But if you step through each of your child and parent hierarchies and you looked for that input action attack on each one, you'd be able to find those. If I keep opening this up, you'll see that I go up to ACF character BP. Again, this has some inherited components on it. Go up a little bit further, and now I am at ACF. I'm sorry, I was at player character. Now I'm at ACF character BP. And go up one more, we should see ACF. Let me move these over into here. And we should see that the ACF player character, sample player, all these things are all connected to each other in some way. So ACF character should have been over here, just to kind of keep them where they were at. And then the parent of ACF character BP is ACF character, which is actually in code in Visual Studio. But this is kind of the highest level of an ACF character. What you can do with this is what I was saying before. You can inherit from these at different levels based on what is already here. But if you were building one from the ground up, you would start it at the ACF character, and then you would go through and put your different classes and components on there and add whatever you want to. Like here we added an effects manager component at this level underneath of ACF character. If you want to see how that hierarchy is set up, I did this in a previous video, but I'll show you in here. If you're in ACF and you go to ACF links, maybe there should be something in the Documentation. If not, it might have been moved to ACF Wiki. And if we go to ACF Wiki, let's go out here. See if we can find it. It should be set up in here with class diagrams. And these might be a little blurry, but let's blow them up in here. You can see that the way that this is set up is basically the same way that your classes are inherited in the lower level. So like here, ACF character is the highest level, but it's really a child of a character from Unreal Engine. And then on that ACF character, you have all your different components here. They get inherited by ACF character BP downstream. And if you wanted to have ACF player character BP, he would be picking up whatever's on character BP, which would include all these components, and so on and so forth. The reason this becomes kind of important is if you have assets from another system, what you may have to do is find out what the hierarchical parent of your other asset is, and then find the appropriate place in the ACF hierarchy to child that thing. So an example might be if you had a weapon, that like a skeletal mesh for a weapon or whatever, and you wanted to create a new one, you could actually child those things. Sometimes you can do it with animation BPs and other stuff like that. But if you're trying to migrate and integrate different assets, it's a good thing to know that you can go in here and kind of reference where this thing is at. So I just wanted to give you a little bit about that. And then the other thing I would like to kind of go through, again, just giving you high-level type stuff. Each of these things, as you pick up the components, obviously if you're at the full player BP, you have access to all of these and the individual settings. Some of the things that you're probably interested in, like the equipment component, this specifies or helps you to specify what your starting items would be on any of the players. So this player starts out with a sword and a bow. Also starts out with a shield and some arrows and a health potion. So you can change all these things in here. Someone had talked about something with the AI and the drop on death. So if you look at your AI character, for example, ACF, let's see if I go to characters, and here's ACF enemy, shield enemy, for example. If we open that up and you go to his equipment component and starting items, you can see what he has in here. And there's a couple things in there that, this has this drop chance percentage. If this isn't working the way that you think it should, you can go in here and actually change these. These might be decimal point values. So this might be 1 and this might be 0.05, for example, if you wanted a 5% chance. So I'm not sure. I haven't checked that out, but somebody mentioned that the other night. This is where the settings are for the drop chance and all that. And again, it might be a decimal value. You also have in here on your characters, when you set these things up, you have to set up all the different available equipment slots to be able to put things in. You would have seen that also on the player class in here. Under the ACF stuff, here's your available equipment slots. So if you don't have a slot here, you're not going to be able to attach items and equipment and armor and things to these slots. And we'll talk about the tagging and slot naming conventions and stuff a little bit later on here. Not in this video probably, because I don't want these to be too long. But just understand that if you go into any of these components and you look at the ACF settings in here, which obviously they're ACF components, so you're going to see ACF settings, you can just expand these out and kind of get your head wrapped around what's going on. So you have slots that are being created here. You're dropping items on death. You're updating the main mesh visibility so we can see you. This tells you what is on the character and your drop chance percent of any of the character stuff. 0% chance for dropping the character is a good idea because all your attachments and equipment and armor and all that kind of stuff would just fall to the ground. Sometimes it doesn't look right with the way that the body drops and decays. Speaking of that, I think there's a thing in here like for the on death action. I think you can just type in death. And this death type here triggers either the death action or you can just put in here like go ragdoll if you don't want to do anything. Usually for the on death action, if you're going to trigger the death action, you would go and set up in a blueprint somewhere how you wanted to handle like your respawn and all that stuff. But if we change this here, what should happen now is when the character dies, he should just fall into a pile on the floor. So we'll just show that real quick here. Let's let these guys kill me. It shouldn't be too hard. Let me get close to these guys here. So I'm just let them take me out here, and I should just go into a ragdoll state. So I just fall into a ragdoll thing there. Now I also automatically decayed, and you can change that setting in your thing here too, and destroy time on death. So if you want to have this for a little bit longer, let's say like 60 or whatever, and same thing now, my body will stay on there longer. You can set this as high as you wanted to, I would imagine, but it would be, you could probably put up a loot system that you could go back and pick up stuff off your old body if you wanted to drop all your items on death. But we'll see here that my body will stay a little bit longer. So there I am, ragdolled and dead. And I'll sit there for about 60 seconds and then I'll disappear. But that's just an easy way to manage how that is set up. And let's talk about a couple of other things in here. Again, I don't want these to be too long, and I don't want them to be too rambly, but I know a lot of people are new because they just got into this with the sales and stuff that were going on. So also your locomotion component in here, this is where you're going to control most of the things with your states and the speeds that those states occur at. And also in here for your look at rate and turn rate, these get picked up in your animation blueprint down the road. They get passed to those values. Your stats components in here. I did an entire video on the old version of ACF, the previous version. That video should translate almost 100% to this, as far as being able to set up all the tags and values and how these curves affect each other and things. And we'll talk about that if anything's really changed. But in here, for example, I don't know if we can see how many points our character actually has on there. Probably not. But if we wanted our character to be a lot tougher, what we could do is just simply go in here and change his character level. So let me make my character level like 25. And now, when I go in here, oops, just put it back this way. But now when I go in here and I go to do damage on these guys, I think you should find that I hardly get affected by their attack. See, they're not doing nearly as much damage to my overall blueprint. And when I hit them, I should do considerable damage. That doesn't mean I'm not going to die. Just saying that. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, you get the idea. Anyway, I'm way tougher than I was last time. But that's where you can set some of that stuff right there in the player, in the components here. And that'll dictate how some of that's in. Now, if you don't want to use the leveling system, you can go in here and say generate stats from curves, and then you can put in different curves to drive that. And again, go and check in my channel. If you go to my Discord, not my Discord, but if you go to my ACF videos, I have a playlist on here that is all for ACF Unofficial Guide. And there's ACF 2.1 for statistics, attributes, and parameters. Will help you understand a lot of how that stuff's set up and how to create those curves. But they're all handled, excuse me, they're generally assigned in the setup in here under project settings. And you would go in here to set up your RPG system. And in here, for example, you have a strength tag for RPG attribute.strength. And it's getting its curve value from the strength to damage curve. And it influences your, should influence your damage. Yeah, okay, so in here it's saying the strength increases your melee damage based on whatever strength you have. So if I cranked my strength up, I would have done more damage. Not just my level. If you use the leveling system has an opportunity to go in there and adjust those values for you as well. So if I say do not use leveling system, and I go back up here to where my strength is, right now it's at 12. If I set this at like 150, and let's say my constitution, I could set that up higher. I'll say like, 100 for that. My endurance, these guys might not even hit me. Let's go in here and see. But just adjusting these parameters manually or driving it through code behavior, you can do the same thing. So I just did 594 points of damage to that guy. 899. So, and you can see that even though he's doing 46 points of damage to me, it's not really moving my bar very much. You see? And if I hit him, I'm probably going to kill him pretty quick. There you go. So that's how you can modify some of those settings to play around a little bit more and help your character be able to do more damage. And what else can we talk about here real quick? These are set up in here, this execution thing. Now I don't know that much about this, but it is covered in that documentation that's on the wiki. So you may want to check that out. But the executor and the anim slave and the snapper, those three things basically are tied pretty much together that for the combined animation system to play the execution. And I'm not sure if in this one the execution used to be if you were in targeted mode, like where you actually have the lock on the character, that it would play the final animation. Let's see if that's still true. So if I hit the T key, when I get close enough to an enemy, it'll put him into a target. See this guy here? So when I go to kill him, let's see if I execute him. Nah, I think I just killed him too quick. There's the execution mode. And it's, I think, I'm almost positive it was because the target was turned on. Yeah. And we might find, let's see, I didn't check this, but we might find that our character, where the hell did I go? I zoomed out on something. Not sure where my character just went to there. Hold on. Let's go. Find our start. I don't know where what did I click on here? What if I deleted something? I may have accidentally hit the delete key while I was in here. Yeah, I think I accidentally may have hit something on there that deleted part of the map, so I just reset it real quick because I should have been able to see all this in here. But again, I'm sorry, I got off into a tangent there for a second, but that kind of gives you a little bit of information, hopefully, about how these settings on the character are wired up, and again, how to get over into the settings out here on the project settings to be able to understand how to change these influencing behaviors and things like that. All this is, when you look at these curves, if you double left click on this, for example, the strength of damage curves, it's setting a cross value here. So at 0 strength, you do 0 damage. And if you go over here to 20 strength, you would do 100 damage. And if you go up here to 40 strength, you would do 300 damage. And anywhere along this curve, you know, if your strength is 30, you're going to do 175 points of damage. Now, there's other modifiers that go in there, but you get the idea. So this kind of gives you the plot of how you gain strength or levels. And then what you can do is you can have influencing curves where you can say that the more, let's say the more constitution I have, the more hit points I can get. And or maybe the more strength I have, the more my stamina would be, or the less my stamina would atrophy. And you can do all that stuff in here. So like here, your constitution has an influence over your health. So again, if I looked at the curve, you would see that, you know, 10 constitution is going to give me 128 hit points. And 30 constitution is going to give me 886, and so on and so forth. And you can use this along with leveling curves and say, you know, at level 1, I get, you know, 10 constitution and 10 strength and 10 whatever. If you wanted to base it on something kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, you could go through there and get ranges, you know, and put them in there, or maybe have a base plus a modifier. And in ACF, one of the nice things in here, there's several nice things, but one of the nice things in here is if you go into this section and you type in docu, a lot of times you'll find these docu files. And for example, ACF docu character, you can go in here and it'll tell you how the different things are set up. It'll show you some of the nodes that you can call. So in here, like for example, how to equip items from inventory, or use an inventory item, or drop them. That information is found inside of these docu character files. DocuActor over here. This is for ATS targeting, triggering the targeted search, getting current target. If you hover over here, see at the end of that it says cinematic camera. So this explains the calls that you could do on the cinematic camera. And what's this one here? There's your statistics right there. So in here, you could add modifiers to your current attribute set. And you can call all these things in your blueprint nodes by getting off of that ARS statistic. So again, you could read the value from the curve or from the level up system or whatever, add experience points. All that stuff is kind of covered in the documentation and kind of covered inside these docu files. I'm pretty sure that documentation references these docu files or at least mentions them. But if not, again, go back and check out that 2.1 video. I did a little bit on that. And I think that one Silverleaf's videos, either video 2 or 3 maybe, had some of that in there as well. So I think that gives you just about all I wanted to share at this point. And again, what I said, we'll just keep taking little bite-sized chunks of this and get you guys up to speed with what's going on, just kind of help you unravel what's going on in here, and then we'll talk about how to set some things up from the ground up instead of using the samples. But for now, I think it's just a good spot to get acclimated and to understand some of the framework. Hopefully this helps somebody. And again, if I'm rambling on, I apologize. You can leave me some feedback in the comments if you want to, and we'll try and make it better. I don't know who knows what or what helps you. So trying to cover as much as I can in a short period of time. All right, guys, thanks again for watching. My name's TC Mabe. I'm in the Discord channel. If you got questions, fire an @ to me, and typically I'll see that. Take care.